Hi, everyone. When I was in the airport flying home from the Toronto International Film Festival a few weeks ago, I wrote myself down a list of what I think are going to be the big themes of this year's Oscar race, at least the ones that I could identify at that point. There's still a long way to go in the season, of course, but after the fall festivals and with a huge contender in one battle after another premiering this week, we do know a lot about the shape the season will take. So this week, I am joined by returning guest Tyler Coates to look at the biggest questions of this year's Oscar season, where we see those questions leading us, and which surprises might still be in store. I am Katey Rich, and this is the Prestige Junkie Podcast. Tyler, I'm so excited to have you back on the show. I didn't get to see you in my fall festival travels, but I know that you've been seeing stuff and keeping up to date. Now that it's over, did you have festival FOMO?
Yeah, of course, every year. I mean, it's never, I always tell myself as I go into like the Telluride Venice weekend and then later TIFF, it's like, oh, I only want to go to see these movies all in one place. It's so much more convenient than driving across town and adding an hour and 45 minutes to every film I see. But really, I am jealous. I want to see all the movies. I want to hang out with all my friends. And I want to go to parties and
you want to go
sing
karaoke with the K-pop Demon Hunters people. Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'd watch. But I think we're all kind of crazy at this point of the year because half of us have seen one thing, half of us haven't seen something. We're all tracking things down. There's nothing really to do yet except see movies and pontificate but like everything's going to change so drastically in the next 6 months. So
yeah, absolutely.
What's the point? But I mean, how can we avoid it?
Yeah, I mean, there was a point in Toronto where I was talking to someone who I don't think was totally wrong, who was like, yeah, I think we basically have like a 2-movie Best Picture race at this point. And I was like, I see where you drew that conclusion, but I also think that cannot possibly be true. Like even in like Oppenheimer years, that was not a 1-movie race. You know, it's so early. It is the time to open the field, right? Like we don't want to narrow down our choices at this point.
Right. Although the last 2 years, the outcomes were very much the early frontrunner.
But we didn't know that at the time.
Of course not. There's no way to know that. But it does sort of make you feel a little insane when the movies that came out of the gate very high at the top.
Yeah, where you run around in circles for 6 months and land where you were in August. You're like, oh, exactly. What have we been doing here?
So let's see if that happens this year.
Well, as people are listening to this, our Angler Pundits page has relaunched with, I believe, both of our picks for everything we think is going to get nominated. I don't know if you filled out all your categories. I can go double check your work, but I think I did. Time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't. I've filled out. I mean, I tried to really focus on what I've actually seen, but I have not seen Hamnet yet, which is one of the 3 main contenders. So,
I think so. Yeah.
I haven't seen really anything from Netflix except for Train Dreams. I haven't seen Begonia. So, and of course, there are movies that we both haven't seen, like Marty Supreme. I think is a big anticipated one. So, yeah, I mean, like it's all going to change, and there's no way to know.
But the guessing is the fun part.
That's what the campaigning's for.
But you told me before we started, and I think maybe a good place to start with the big picture, that you feel pretty confident about what 5 of the 10 Best Picture nominees are going to be. Yeah,
I mean, I feel very confident, just looking historically over the last couple decades and how franchises kind of play out. I feel like we can carve out a slot for Wicked and Avatar. Those are pretty solid. See, I think especially Wicked.
There are a lot of Avatar skeptics out there. So, like, I think I agree. I'm literally trying to remember if I put it on my list. I think I did. But I think I've heard the argument that like the second one got fewer nominations than the first, and so it's just going to continue falling off. But you feel confident.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wicked is a stronger bet of those two. I still feel like until I see Avatar and it's either a bust and no one cares about it, or like the previous two, everyone's like, this is incredible. And it gets the Oscar nominations and no one ever talks about it again. But that's the thing. Like that's kind of what's going for Avatar, is that it truly is a big screen experience. It's a theatrical experience. It doesn't I've never watched them at home. So
I have, because my kids like them, but I want to go see them in the. It's not like something you would like sit down with and put on the way you would a Terminator movie or Titanic. No, I mean
that's the one series that I like. Okay, I have to see this in 3D. There's no other movie I'm desperate to see in 3D. So,
absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's sort of what's going for it. I think if that is like the Lord of the Rings, that's sort of. I doubt that like by the end of the 5th Avatar film, that's the one that's finally going to win Best Picture. I don't know if Wicked for Good is going to win, but I do think it will be in there. And I think it's just sort of like, I kind of consider the 10, the field of 10 means that you kind of find 10 different, very specific movies that appeal to very specific voters. And those, I think, are going to find that audience, I think, within the Academy.
I think I have a guess of what your other three are, but I want you to tell me what your
I feel like they're the ones that everyone's talking about. I mean,
Okay.
Hamnet, Sinners, and One Battle After Another. I think Sinners is undeniable. I think just the fact that it did so well and was so good, and especially in the face of so many naysayers thinking that it was going to be I don't know, between that and Paul Thomas Anderson, they were going to completely bankrupt Warner Brothers, which, as we know, has not turned out to be the case in
now
any
makes it seem like
way.
No matter how much money One Battle After Another makes, even if it's like a huge flop, which I doubt it will be, like, they're fine. They made the Minecraft movie. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, exactly. I think that that's... Look, I look at what Pam and Mike's jobs, you know, as we're all on first name basis here in this town. It's sort of like any other editorial planning. You find the stuff that is going to be absolutely bonkers, like a Minecraft. It's like it's going to print money. I mean, Superman did very well. I mean, that's not necessarily under their world because that's DC, but.
Sure.
You know, I think that they had a lot of smart horror films in the mix that obviously were going to make a lot of money. And I think that that's how you plan things. You set up your slate to kind of create a giant bucket of money as opposed to like needing every single thing in that bucket to make a giant amount of money. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if One Battle will make its money back, but it's going to be a hit. And it's critically acclaimed already. I mean, I think the review broke yesterday. I mean,
hang on. I'm going to pull up
early.
I think the Metacritic score is really out of control right now, which obviously it can change over time.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to pull it up on, because it's like 96 on Metacritic. Do you know how hard it is to get to a 96 on Metacritic?
Yeah, and it's 97 on Rotten Tomatoes. So like that's a very rare kind of lining up there between those two sites. I mean, that will change. You know, we're recording early. I think it comes out
Friday. Friday as people are hearing this. Yes,
but like, so, you know, the more reviews will be coming out, you know, outside of like kind of the LA, New York markets.
Sure.
I think it's a great, strong year for Warner Brothers to have two right out of the gate, one blockbuster and one, I think, you know, very solid success at the box office, but also like I think a masterpiece.
Yeah,
I know I'm a Paul Thomas Anderson fan, but I think it's a masterpiece.
There are a lot of them out there. I mean, he has been nominated for 11 Oscars. Like, I think the cinephile world loves him more than the Oscars have historically, but 11 Oscar nominations is no small thing. Yeah. I mean, so, you know, I'll have time to talk about One Battle, which I haven't seen, and I do want to get to Hamnet, which you haven't seen, but to talk about the Warner Brothers thing for a minute, really the question I keep asking people, and no one has had a good answer for, because I don't know that there is a good answer. If you're Warner Brothers and you have Sinners and One Battle After Another, these two films made by big deal directors, like one who's had a much longer career than the other, obviously, but one who's, you know, much more of a sensation now. Like Ryan Coogler is just like this huge success story in so many ways. He's growing in what he can do. Whereas Paul Thomas Anderson, you know, you can be like, the peak of his power was in the 2000s or something. Both of those movies deserve, and I think will get, really full-throated Oscar pushes. But how do you just evenly do both of them? How do you push what I think either could be a Best Picture winner at this point? How do you split that baby?
I mean, it's going to be tricky. And I think that, like, you know, I think that the biggest concern about Sinners is that the international vote is, are international voters going to respond to it? It's a very American, very specific American period piece. It's also a horror film, obviously horror at this point. I mean, we had The Substance last year. There's no reason why we can't get Sinners in there.
Sure.
But, you know, I think that, like, I think there are definitely higher stakes for Sinners because it is on paper a complete success and a critical hit. And if the Academy doesn't respond in the same way, I think that will cause a lot of concern. Is
One Battle After Another, is it less American feeling than Sinners?
No, but it is more timely, I would say. It has, you also have Benicio del Toro in there. I mean, I would say this about One Battle After Another. It feels like it was made 2 weeks ago. And when we talk about politics and our current time, I mean, I saw it twice before the Charlie Kirk shooting. And then when that happened, I was like, oh, Jesus, this is going to be really something. Because, you know, the heroes, the protagonists are radical leftists. And I don't say that in like the glib 2025 way. I mean, like, you know, Weather Underground types, political, revolutionary violence is important.
It's based on Violin, which is about like 60s radicals who I think we have wrapped our heads around more. Like we understand that type more. But making it in the present day does sound like it makes it a lot more, poking the eye.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I think that the villain in it is Sean Penn, who's representative of the government and the police state. So I think it's very sort of the sort of thing where I'm like, well, I guess I hope we don't get the culture war out, like, or either we get it out like immediately and like coast on through for the rest of the campaign, or this is just like a narrative that keeps coming back. I don't know. I mean, our attention spans, even when it comes to political outrage, is becoming even that's becoming so short and brief, and we just like move on to the next thing. So I don't know. I mean, but
I mean, the Sinners political outrage, like we already had a round of it. It can still come back. There's no reason that people can't get mad about it all over again.
That's certainly true. Yeah. So, but you know, it is. I think it's incredible that this is a Warner Brothers film. You know, to hear
either of them are Warner Brothers films.
Yeah, but like, I mean, especially the politics of One Battle, and to hear Paul at the premiere thank David Zaslav. It's just, I'm like, what world do we live in? This is incredible.
Yeah.
And, you know, I will throw out there, I think that on a personal level, this is a very interesting film for Paul because it's about a white dad grappling with having a black kid.
Yeah.
And that is something that really stood out to me, especially in the second time I saw it. It doesn't hit you over the head with it. I think it's just kind of an underlying theme, but it's a really interesting one for me and something that I did not expect from him. And you kind of forget about his personal life because he has
4 kids with Maya Rudolph.
I believe that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I've always considered very aspirational. Like if I were like rich and well connected, I would absolutely just have 4 kids and be like, yeah, bring them on. We're going to make more geniuses because we're Paul Thomas Anderson and Maya Rudolph.
Exactly.
But they've been they're pretty low key couple. Like I don't know really anything about their kids. And I think that's been a pretty deliberate effort on their part.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think a couple of them may have been in Licorice Pizza because that whole movie was about, just the people in his life. Let's gather them around and make a movie out of it. But yeah, I think that like there is really something here about fatherhood, which I think is also interesting that it's Leo playing a father. I mean, he's sort of rapidly aged into that,
he's in his 50s,
character. And
sad, but
not
true.
even that, but a father of a 16-year-old. So I think that I just think that also Tiana Taylor and Regina Hall and Chase Infinity are, it's a really amazing movie for those actresses. So there's a lot to really chew on with that one. I think.
So that tidal wave is still cresting basically as we speak. But I do think that despite One Battle is going to have this recency going for it, I think we both feel pretty confident that Sinners is in a really major position. I feel like their work hasn't really even started yet. They did the money thing, and the campaign part of it has only begun. And we have not yet seen what Michael B. Jordan can do in a room full of voters. And I just really hope that he is going to be out there and is going to do that work and, go around with the full ensemble cast. And, I think there's going to be so much upside there.
Yeah, and I was thinking, even when that movie came out, I was like, there is a world in which that breaks 10 nominations. It's got a huge ensemble. It has, I could at least get 2 song nominations, I think. I think it's a shoo-in for score because they love Ludwig, and
and that score is phenomenal.
And that score is so layered. There's a lot happening there.
Are those songs, all those old blues songs, not a weird tricky thing? Is there going to be some kind of originality problem, or are they all? If they're all public domain,
no, I think
does it not matter?
I think a lot of them are. I mean, a lot of Miles's songs are original.
Yeah.
So obviously, I think the 2 that I could see getting in are, I can't remember the name of it, but the performance when, the ancestors come back and that big dance number. I mean, that is really the centerpiece of that film.
That's the scene of the year, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I can never remember how credit songs fit in because I feel like that's changed a lot.
No, I think if it's the first song, then you
okay.
Then
I think but well, okay, I guess it's the second song of the credit after the mid-credit sequence.
The credits of Sinners are very interesting.
Yeah. So I think that song, that was on my Spotify repeat playlist for a while. I really enjoyed it. That's
This
the one
is
that
a,
Miles sang.
This is a sidebar, but the original song race, after having been like kind of a bummer for a couple years running, I would say, is going to be bananas this year.
This year is wild.
So like K-pop Demon Hunters is only submitting Golden, but it's the song of the year. I think they're just going to win it in a walk. There's also 2 new Wicked songs that are coming in. We don't know how many they'll campaign. Disney has just reminded me that there are original Nine Inch Nail songs in Tron Ares. And don't forget that Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor have 2 Oscars. Like that's in there. There's going to be a Zootopia song from Shakira. It's the Diane Warren, I think, has a movie. So just right there.
And you have Highest to Lowest, which I don't want to count out.
That's a great song.
Again, that movie is about music and like he interwove. I mean, I could see that getting to not just A$AP Rocky's song, but the song at the end. I can't remember her name. She sat next to me at a screening of it. It was incredible. I was like, I never clap during a movie or a movie performance, but like at the end of that final song, I was like, hell yeah, you, like right here next to me. All right, good for you. I was like, otherwise I sat the entire 2 hours of that movie being like, oh, this woman seems to be somebody by the way that everyone's acting about her.
And then you get to that final scene, you're like, oh wow, she is somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about One Battle After Another, feeling like it was made 2 weeks ago. I think the question of how politics are going to affect the Oscar race but continue to be salient every single year. I remember last year being like, oh, there's going to be an election. We're all going to lose our minds. And honestly, there might have been too much shell shock going on for anyone to really figure out what they wanted to do. No Other Land was maybe kind of the most pertinent political part of that Oscar race. And again, we're recording this on a Thursday. Jimmy Kimmel's news just broke pretty recently. God knows what's going to happen in the next 4 days or in the next 6 months for that matter. But I like it. I just don't. I think the intensity is only going to keep ratcheting up. And I don't know how it's going to affect the Oscars airing on ABC, which is currently in a shit ton of trouble. So what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a worst case scenario planner. I start with societal collapse and then sort of move my way back.
Hope we have an Oscars by March.
Yeah, basically. But I don't know. I mean, last year, look, I mean, 2 years ago, the Oppenheimer Killers of the Flower Moon season was happening while we weren't allowed to say genocide, and that has changed a lot in the last 2 years. Yeah. The tide has definitely shifted there. But that was a crazy year. I think of that as the zone
of interest season, but given how Jonathan Glazer's speech went when he said something.
And like you have to remember, like no one said anything in a single speech until the Oscar night.
Yeah.
And it was Jonathan Glazer, and people still lost their minds.
Yeah.
But I remember feeling so insane that entire period. We also had the strikes, so that was also crazy that season.
It was a weird time.
But it was a weird year where we just we had 3 films that were very, very politically relevant that we just could not even acknowledge publicly what was going on because it was too complicated and too scary to even say anything. And again, that has changed a lot. I think No Other Land breaking through this year was a major thing. I know that there are a couple of relevant titles out of that part of the country, that part of the world that are going to be in the race this year that I think are very interesting.
Yep. I don't think either of us have seen, like Voice of Henry Rajah, but was at Venice. I don't think either of us have seen it, but that one, that's Tunisia's submission.
Okay, so that's a narrative, right? That's not doc.
Yes, I think it's like a doc narrative hybrid, but I don't think it's being submitted as a documentary.
Right. I mean, that's the international race is also insane this year too.
Yeah, it's real tight.
So that's a situation where is it going to be political or is it going to be a bunch of European filmmakers?
Well, look, France managed to pick, it was just an accident over Nouvelle Vague as their submission.
That is true,
with all due credit to Nouvelle Vague, a movie I enjoyed, that was the only sensible choice to make. So things are okay. Yeah. Things are on the right track for now. We'll see if it can continue.
Yeah, and I think that I think that's so interesting too. Someone was when I asked about, is Nouvelle Vague making the neon people nervous? They're like, well, I hate that question, obviously, but no, because no American director has ever been nominated. No film by an American director has ever been selected and nominated.
Yeah. I mean, Emilia Perez being submitted, I think but that's a French director being submitted by France.
French director, yeah. I mean, look, Yeah, Wim Wenders was nominated for a Japanese film. These things
Yeah.
are fluid, but I think when it comes to like the international race is not for American films and features, so that's just sort of how it is.
Yeah.
So I would have been really, really shocked had France picked that one. But
Yeah. So internationally, we're going to see things coming in the content of the films. Like I am very interested in how our domestic conversations about power and government and speech and all of this stuff. I mean, a lot of movies get into that. I don't think Hamnet's really about that, but plenty of other ones are and touch on those subjects. And I think it's only going to become more pointed as the months continue.
Right. I'm very curious what you'd think about kind of international titles in the Best Picture race, because we've had, I think, at least the last 5 years at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe 6. We've had at least one, and Zone of Interest and Anatomy of a Fall both got in 1 year, which I thought was very impressive.
Yeah. No, it's kind of a given at this point.
Yeah. Do you think that there will be, I mean, if you think there's one shoe in, but do you think there could be 2 that sneak in there?
I mean, I was interested that you did mention sentimental value in your list of the 5 that you think.
I kind of consider that in that top 10 bracket so far.
In the top 10 that I made, I have both Sentimental Value, which is a second prize winner at Cannes, it's Joachim Trier. It's a lot in English. It's very accessible. It's really good. And I have
Fanning
it was just
is a good representative in it too.
And I have It Was Just an Accident, the Jafar Panahi movie that France has submitted because it won the Palme d'Or. It's really pointed. It's also like pretty entertaining. Like shame on me, never saw Seed of the Sacred Fig last year because that was the Iranian movie that was submitted by Germany, I think.
Yes.
But I think people were kind of like respectfully fond of it, but not necessarily like over the moon. But it was just have you seen it? The Panahi?
I have. Yeah. I liked it, and it really surprised me.
It moves. It's surprising. It's funny.
It's funny. Yeah. And it's also, it's really hard. Like it's shocking. Like the last, not to spoil it for anyone, but like the last moment is just
it's got the best final scene of the year probably. But the way that it's also about like moving on from oppression and arrests, it's about these people who like Jafar Panahi have served time in jail in Iran for varying levels of speech against the government. So that part of it feels pointed, and it makes me think it's a really different movie from I'm Still Here, but just the way that I'm Still Here really struck a nerve last year. And even in Brazil, like I talked to Wagner Moura and Kleber Mendoza Filho in Toronto. They're from Brazil. They have another movie, The Secret Agent, which we can talk about. But they were saying that I'm Still Here taught young Brazilians like about history that they didn't know about. So this, this idea of revisiting the past and finding things within it, I think Iran is pretty incomprehensible for a lot of us. Like it's hard to necessarily understand life there. And that's what so many Panahi's movies have been about. Like finding a way to make a movie without being able to leave your house, or you got to be in a van, you got to do it in secret. And so it's an educational hill for some people to kind of get like he went to Telluride this year. He couldn't leave the country for 15 years, and now he can go to Telluride, and the reasons why are kind of complicated. But I just think anyone who sees that movie will get it. And those kinds of like smaller international films, like I'm Still Here or Zone of Interest, like have broken in recent years. And I feel like this will happen.
And Neon having it, I think, is going to be a boon too.
But Neon, so they've got Sentimental Value, Secret Agent, It Was Just an Accident.
They have Secret Agent too. I didn't realize that. Because I haven't seen Secret Agent yet, but the way people talk about it and Wagner in it, I kind of see that as like kind of following the I'm Still Here playbook. It's a stranger movie than I'm Still Here. It's like long and a little meandering and kind of has these like, there's some flights of fancy in it. There's like different timelines. It's like hard to orient yourself sometimes. Wagner's amazing in it. And I think there's like some real emotional gut punches that come in at the end of it. I think that It Was Just an Accident is like a little easier to wrap your head around. I would be interested in, what other people would say about that. But no, it's the same kind of the similar, like a smaller scale version of what Warner Brothers has. Like, how do you juggle all of these, movies that are all kind of worthy of the attention? Yeah, Neon is sort of their slate this year is kind of, it's very stuffed. And it's kind of what happened with A24 last year. We always bring up the fact that A24 had to focus on, certain films, and then certain films kind of fall by the wayside there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to tell if it's much of a problem this year at A24. We can get into it.
Yeah, but Neon, I feel like is stronger in the international titles right now.
Yeah.
So it'd be curious.
Neon also has no other choice. That's the other one. The Park Chan-wook movie that was a big hit at Venice. I saw it in Toronto and I think it's great. And I think Lee Byung-hun, who's the lead actor, when I did my pundits page, I put him in the best actor lineup, even though it's so insanely competitive. It's so hard to know who's going to get nominated there.
I mean, but actor is a total other episode. But Park Chan-wook is kind of, the Academy has never been really that receptive to stuff. I mean, he's sort of the great director who's been passed over by the Academy multiple times. So.
Well, that's him and Paul Thomas Anderson, right? And then, Ryan Coogler.
Well, Paul keeps getting nominated, but yeah.
But I'm thinking in terms of directors who have narratives and how you figure out who's going to fill in that category. Park Chan-wook, Paul Thomas Anderson, Ryan Coogler to a lesser extent. He's made fewer movies, but I think Creed
he's made two. He's made a Best Picture nominee that didn't get a director nomination.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah.
So you've got them, but then you have Chloe Zhao and Catherine Bigelow, who both already have Oscars, but probably in large part due to being women, but possibly other reasons, I think, are not given the same kind of totemic treatment that Cuarón, other recent Best Director winners are. So if it's those two versus newbies, then what narrative takes hold? Best Director might be even more interesting than Best Picture for that reason.
I mean, they'll probably give another one to Bradley Cooper. Talk about another guy
that
he has so many nominations. He may have more. He may have more than Paul Thomas Anderson. I thought that he had 11 or 12, so it might be neck and neck there.
Yeah. I don't know what to make of Is This Thing On? I don't know anyone who's seen it. I don't know if you have, but it's definitely one of those question marks still lingering.
I mean, obviously, some people at New York Film Festival have seen it. The friend that I have who is there didn't get a chance to see it, so...
Okay.
But
I think
that and Marty Supreme are really the two holdouts that no one really knows yet. If we can just go on the buzz that the publicists are telling us. So who can believe it?
We talked about Wicked and Avatar. Those are question marks also. But between Is This Thing On and Marty Supreme, are you feeling more bullish on one than the other?
I think Marty. I'm just kind of going with my gut there. I think that's just already an interesting conversation about two different movies by two different Safdie brothers.
I know.
And what is that going to look like? We haven't, I always joke about, the alternate timeline in which Challengers and Past Lives were both released in the same year and were nominated for Best Original Screenplay.
Where it's a husband versus wife in the screenplay category.
Yeah, but it's a little, and even when Greta and Noah have been nominated for separate things at the same time, it didn't feel as I don't know. There's a tension there about the Safdies right now, at least for me.
Everyone says that the Safdies are still good, that they have not, their relationship is fine. I guess kind of what people say about the Coens, although they're not, Joel's not making movies.
I'm not suggesting that there's been some rift or something, and this is going to bring it all out in the open. I just think it's going to be just inherently interesting to see if one gets in and the other one is shut out. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that could happen.
I mean, I
haven't seen Smashing Machine yet.
Well, so I saw Smashing Machine in Toronto, and having seen how that trailer kind of leads you to expect a movie that it's not, I am curious if Marty Supreme could follow in the same direction. Obviously, it's a period piece. It's got more trappings. Smashing Machine is based on a documentary and is so stylistically trying to ape it in this really stripped down way that it feels almost experimental sometimes. And I don't think Marty Supreme is like that, but this is Josh Safdie, I think expecting a fun, spunky, period ping pong movie, there's gonna be more to it than that. And in a world where Nosferatu was a big Christmas hit and Timmy is the king of Christmas, anything can happen. Yeah. But I'm also bullish on it, but I also have no idea what we're in for.
Yeah. No, I have a friend who just is a fan of both, and she was just sort of wherever Ron Brunstine goes, that's where I'm headed. And he did co-write Marty. I just saw Mary Bronstein's
I was just gonna say,
If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You yesterday, which also was oof, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that
I love that
feels
movie.
of that world. I mean, yes, I really loved it. I really right off the heels of Die My Love, an interesting
and a Die My Love I haven't seen. Have you seen that
Motherhood?
one?
I have. I saw it on Friday.
Okay.
Last week. I mean, Lynn apparently recut it after Cannes, so I don't know how much has changed, but I mean, again, I think
much.
Yeah, throwing those two films in there and then Hamnet, I mean, I think kind of an interesting race about like motherhood and like what it does to you. Again, I haven't seen Hamnet yet. From what I understand, it's mostly just despair and sadness.
No, there's way less despair in it. I would say that if I had legs, honestly, if I had legs, kind of like starts from a point of despair and ratchets up, and Hamnet kind of it like weaves in and out a little bit more. I mean, having not seen Hamnet and you were not in Telluride or Toronto to kind of watch the hype really take over, I think one of my big questions in terms of the shape of the race in general is how much can Hamnet be peaking too early? And is that a concern for them? And the corollary I would throw out to that is that I think one battle after another, people coming out of it right after TIFF is like the best thing that could happen for Hamnet, is that everyone has turned their attention to something else and Hamnet is still going to be there and be great. And then the time will come for it to come back.
Yeah, I mean, Hamnet, I have to admit, I had heard kind of negative things about it over the summer. So to see it really blow up that weekend at 2 different festivals, I was like, oh, I guess no, it wasn't at Venice, right? So it was but it was in Telluride in Toronto. Yeah. And then so at first it was like, okay, is it the altitude? Is it because movies make you cry when you're high up in the air?
It's true. Airplanes will tell you.
I watched Love, Simon on an airplane, and I thought I was gonna die in my seat. I don't think I'd have the same response in my house. But then, I mean, again, like it hit TIFF and obviously was a massive success there, won the People's Choice Award. So, but and I think, again, like you've got 2 really, really hot, I mean, hot as in attractive and also like buzzy actors at the moment. And it already seems like it's Jesse's to lose. And whenever that happens so early, when we start kind of considering that it's like someone's to lose, that can sort of make it complicated. But at the same time, we've seen in the last few years, there have been a lot of like kind of front runners throughout the entire season that kind of just managed to get in there. And so
Yeah, I mean, it's rare for them to be a front runner and for everyone to be like, okay, it's over. We're not going to hype up other things. Like Renee Zellweger and Judy, I think, is like a relatively recent example of it. That was even like as it was happening, we were like, really? And then it just did. But you think about like Adrian Brody and the Brutalists or Mikey Madison both last year. Like those are performances that popped. People talked about them. People knew how strong they were, but no one really felt confident that they were going to have it in the bag. And then,
Yeah, because there was like one other like big competitor.
Yeah.
Then you have like a Kieran Culkin. I mean, usually those kind
I guess Kieran Culkin did kind of
the sure things really happen in the supporting races. Like Divine Joy Randolph, she just swept.
That was
we all knew that.
It was never going to stop.
Yeah, as soon as we saw that film, I
don't see those in supporting this year, try to do it off the top of my head. Like, I think supporting the Stellan Skarsgård, Adam Sandler showdown feels sort of right to me, but there's room for other stuff. And God, who is even in supporting actress? Like,
I mean, we also have Delroy Lindo and Miles Catton and Sinners.
Yep.
Jeremy Strong, Deliver Me From Nowhere. They love him, but I don't know about that. One. Yeah, I did. I think, I don't know. I was, I don't mind a musical biopic of kind of that ilk. I really liked Complete Unknown. This is very different in tone.
And Complete Unknown did a lot to win a lot of us over.
Yes, and I generally really like Bruce Springsteen. Nebraska's not my favorite of Bruce Springsteen's albums. I think that is sort of the point of the film. It's sort of the outlier in his early discography, I would say. But I saw it a couple weeks ago. It was a very small group of us. I got up and was just sort of like, all right. That was that. And then I turned and then an older gentleman behind me immediately goes, that was incredible, wasn't it? And I was like, okay.
You're like, I found
all right, well, again, like this is all for me to say. It doesn't matter if I like something because it truly does. Like my tastes don't reflect probably what a lot of voters are going to vote. And like
it keeps changing on us.
Who knows? I mean, when I was actually an editor, I would tell publicists when they would ask after I saw a movie. And I'd be like, look, I didn't like it, but I know what to do with it because that's all that matters for me. Like, it's about programming,
I know what
stories.
to do with it. That's a good answer.
Yeah, like I know how to make stories around things, even if I don't really care for them. And I know how to, but like now that I'm on my own, I feel a little bit more free to be like, this didn't work for me. But
yeah. It's a touchy thing, though, because like if in September you tell them like I didn't like The Whale, just to use like an obvious example of something recently most of us didn't like, then it's like, all right, you've really cut off a path for getting access to the people you want to talk to throughout the season. Like it's a tough spot.
No, and like I even said this, there was a movie that I didn't really care for, but the director was still being pitched to me, and I was like, well, I can still ask him questions about making the movie.
About
like
anything.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. So
don't cut me off.
It's not about, I'm not advocating, I will certainly advocate for movies, especially in phase one, because that's the whole point of this. That's why we want to do it. We want to talk about the stuff that we love.
Yeah, that's why I won't shut up about Train Dreams. I'm like, guys, it's only out if you keep saying it's out. Like, you just stop pretending, stop assuming Netflix will have to throw it overboard to be able to campaign the other movies.
Look, I mean, yeah, Netflix has a huge slate this year. It's their biggest in several years. And things can go in very different directions for them because they have wildly different films. And I really love Train Dreams. And it's much smaller than the rest of them, but I think it is really beautifully made. And I think that I can see a world in which Joel gets in, or maybe a best adapted screenplay.
Absolutely.
Best picture is always tough. Yeah. But I mean, William H. Macy, I mean, again, like,
but also, like, I think Sing Sing came pretty close. And I think that there is a path. Yeah.
And same team behind Sing Sing too. They've just sort of switched their Clint Bentley and Craig Quaidar kind of alternate who's directing, who's writing and producing.
They're doing exactly what Mona Fastfold and Brady Corbet did. And I, at this point, I don't know if Anne Lee's coming out this year or what. Saw that movie in Toronto, loved it, would love for it to be out there.
Yeah, I'm
love
really excited to see it.
Specific role of switching spots.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Anne Lee. I feel like until it's bought, I'm not going to see it because no one's going to screen it for me. But
so while we've been talking about actors, I wanted to throw out another one of the big questions I had leaving Toronto, because I saw Christy a couple hours before I left, and that I think is going to get a big push for Sydney Sweeney for Best Actress. I think it could definitely happen. But the idea of a nomination for a movie that isn't nominated for Best Picture has gone away a lot in recent years. It's way harder to get in like that. And I wonder if you think that it's possible to reverse that, or if there's just kind of an inevitable condensing that's happening and we can't, even Sydney Sweeney can't get through that.
Right. I mean, I want to see that. Look, I think if Rose Byrne can get in, that might be it for If I Had Legs. Just because it's a smaller indie film. It's a performance-based film. Its narrative quirks and would turn people off a little bit. I also think that Dwayne Johnson, I mean, the Smashing Machine kind of exists for Dwayne to get an Oscar nomination, to me, or to at least prove himself as the real actor. Sort of the same way that, like, that's what Rustin existed for with Coleman Domingo. It was basically just supposed to put Coleman Domingo, make him the star that he should have been 10 years ago, like kind of let him catch up to where he's been in his career as this kind of journeyman actor who's always been great. And that certainly did. They got him there. It did the job. It truly did the job. So, and I have seen Twinless twice in the last week. I'm obsessed with it. And Dylan O'Brien in that film really, really blew me away. I think one of the better performances of the year, precisely because it surprised me, but also, like, it's so layered and smart and really touching. And, that's a small roadside film that was released early September. Like in a dead zone, like next to Demon Slayer, whatever that, which is a movie that I actually accidentally walked into instead of Twinless because I got the numbers wrong, and I sat down like literally in progress of Demon Slayer with my Coke and giant popcorn in the first row because I'm a very front row kind of person. Sure. And was like, this is not a trailer, and just ran out cackling. So, like, I just wanted to share that anecdote. But no, I mean, so there are movies like that where I'm like, I really, really hope that some really strong performances can squeeze in that aren't just being held up because their films are going to be nominated for like 9 other things. Yep. The other one who I put on the list, along with Sydney Sweeney from TIFF, was Josh O'Connor from Wake Up Dead Man. And obviously the Knives Out movies have each gotten screenplay nominations. I hope they push for that. I think this movie deserves one. But he would be in Best Actor, I think. I think putting him in supporting would be a real cheat. But he's just tremendous in that movie. And I want to believe there is a path there, but it's really hard to figure out what it is. Yeah. I mean, Amy Madigan and Weapons, I think she deserves it. On my list. I do too. I mean, because again, like it's a light race right now.
It's a light race, and I think if you are the thing from a movie that is a big sensation, like I have, I think I drafted Weapons in the Vulture Movie Fantasy League because I just feel like it's going to keep popping up in places. Like, I don't think original screenplay is unreasonable to campaign for that either.
No, it's a great screenplay. I have to say, I think it's like it's an incredible screenplay.
Yeah, and Warner Brothers, again, has their hands insanely full, so I don't know how you figured that out, but Amy Madigan, like... if we're in a naming names period of life again, and Amy Madigan's going to be at the Oscars not clapping for someone,
I love that. I think about that constantly. I'm sure if you interview her, one of us has to interview her and ask her about not clapping for Elia Kazan.
Or just like the way that's become like, and it's, she's done a lot of great work. Honestly, I think of that and I think of Field of Dreams where she's big screaming at somebody in town hall. It's like, thank you, Amy Madigan. Speak truth to power. Keep at it.
Exactly.
So she can have one of those like Jamie Lee Curtis style Oscar runs and getting to come back and be like, who else I'm mad at? And
totally.
I would love that. I don't know if that's what she wants to do, but it would be a great time.
I don't know if that's really her kind of public persona either. Just constantly being like, guess who? Like the Patti LuPone of Hollywood, just like burning bridges left and right about who she's not friends with anymore. Maybe we need that. I don't know. Like that's sort of what Patti got away with for so long is that, people just don't care as much about that world, so like it's more insular. But
I don't know that we're gonna.
If you throw darts at your fellow celebrities here in Hollywood, it's a little more complicated.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we'll see how anyone navigates any of that. Okay, as we get to a point of wrapping it up, I'm going to throw out a theory that Chris Rosen and I kind of arrived at while we were talking about the Emmys, because there were so many like wins from the heart. It felt like everyone wanted to like celebrate the thing that they really love. You get things like Catherine Nasa or Kristen Milioti just having these really heartfelt speeches and having all that happen after Jeff Hiller. I'm never going to get over it. It was the best thing that ever happened to the Emmys. But seeing that right after Hamnet had won the audience award, I was just thinking a lot of like people want sincerity and feelings. And I just have this kind of overarching theory, and I don't know how one battle after another would fit into this or anything, but there's just going to be this pivot toward big feelings in a lot of ways in this Oscar season. And I wonder if you think that holds water, or if you have your own kind of theory, like if there's going to be a theme this season, what it might be.
That's really interesting because I have my friend Maya Cade last year when we saw Megalopolis together, which we both loved. And her take was that like just the kind of backlash against that was like kind of a backlash against like how earnest that film was. And maybe it's the person making it. Like maybe if the person making it is becoming very earnest. Like I thought the same way about Highest to Lowest. Like I saw that twice. I still disagree with everyone who says the first act doesn't work. I think the first hour is great. Wow. It just is a different.
I am also on the opposite side of that, but I respect you and your opinions.
Okay, but like I think that the first act is very earnest.
It is
very earnest on Spike Lee's part, and I think that is like, maybe that's Coppola and Spike kind of aging a little, and taking stock of what's important in their lives, which is kind of cheesy, and people don't respond to it as much as this overwhelming like emotion. I guess my take is that I'd rather have earnestness than like emotion that feels like it's a little manipulative. Again, I haven't seen Hamnet. I heard what Chris did say, that he felt a little bit manipulated by it.
That it's a little manipulative, yeah.
And, and I think that like that could fall down to like kind of a gender divide. I've sort of seen that. I've seen like, some people, like I've seen a through line between the people who've not been touched by Hamnet. Let's put it that way. So I think that could be something that happens this year, that there's like kind of, again, like one battle after another, like Paul Thomas Anderson could not be like more like film bro, like filmmaker. Like that's just sort of, I hate that idea, the idea that women don't like Paul Thomas Anderson, which is insane.
No, it's not true, but anything, also the
Phantom
the
Thread is like kind of, but yes, the coding of that is like, it's big, it's muscular, I would say. But again, like Tiana Taylor carries the first act of that film. Like she just like kicks it off and running. And throughout it, but Leo doesn't feel like, he feels like an ensemble member. It doesn't feel like he's the star of this show.
Wow.
And the women in that film are very, 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 very deep and layered in ways that I haven't really seen in his work before. And yeah, so I think that we might have like boy movie versus girl movie type of fight way.
I mean, the last time we had a boy movie, Oppenheimer and Barbie, I guess, is the very obvious example.
Yeah, I mean, that's the quintessential. I mean, I remember when, the Brutalist running at the Vista here in LA and people and girls being like, the men's room line was so long.
Honestly, when I was lighting up for the Testament of Ann Lee press screening at Toronto very early, I was like, I've never seen so many men in line for a movie with a woman's name in the title. So the reputation continues.
Yeah. So, but no, I think the most interesting thing when it comes to like the boy movie, girl movie kind of mentality, and this is something I had commissioned a piece about a couple years ago, and then last year completely ended the tradition of Best Actress. There's so rarely overlap between all 5 Best Actress nominees and
Best Picture
nominees. Like it's usually like if a woman's carrying a film, it's gonna be something like Judy or Still Alice.
North
these
Country,
like very in North. Yeah, I mean,
or
like
Monster,
these.
Both of Charlize's movies.
Yeah. Like for a long time, the movies that won Best Actress were not even in the running for Best Picture, which I always sort of saw as like a kind of like systemic kind of sexist thing that I think last year really changed. Now again, Anora made by a man, like very. And I think that Sean's comic sensibility is probably more slapstick and goofy than, if that movie had been made by a woman.
Yeah.
But again, like, I don't know. I mean, that's a larger conversation. I don't know if there's any lessons to be learned or any strong
looking
theses.
Out for boy movies versus girl movies. That's a fun thing.
Yeah,
to
I just think it's an interesting idea. Like, I think it's something to think about. I mean, I would say even Avatar versus Wicked is sort of like falls into that.
I'm going to throw out my one other theory for the season, and this is related to Wicked, but I said this already to somebody, but I think the best thing that could happen for this Oscar race is for the K-pop Demon Hunter stans and the Wicked stans to get very invested in the original song Oscar race, and like 10-year-old girls are like watching the Oscars fervently. Like, I really want that moment, and so
that's how we get them. That's how we trick them into thinking that this is important.
Elementary school age children, let me tell you, the K-pop Demon Hunter fandom is strong, and they will be very invested in the Oscars if I have anything to say about it. So get
as
right,
a 42-year-old man, I have missed.
You have no dog in this fight.
I'll watch the animated features just because out of necessity, but they're not things I don't have to. I'm not being dragged to the theaters for the sing-alongs. So no. I couldn't even tell you what the songs sound like. I just haven't heard them.
Don't worry, they'll get to you. They'll find their way.
It's like I thought I could outrun Bruno, but that was a foregone conclusion, wasn't it? So.
That's true. Okay, as it's time to wrap this up, Tyler, thank you for coming back to do all this with me. There's just so many threads to follow, so many narratives to get into. Obviously, we'll get a chance to get into it again, and people should check out both of our picks at Ankler Pundits and follow along and tell us what's wrong. But do you want to plug anything else before you go?
My filmmakers, Filmmaker Magazine newsletter considerations will start, I believe, October 14th for the season. And I'll be kind of analyzing and doing a little bit of predicting over there as well.
Sounds good to us. Thank you for coming back, Tyler.
Thank you for having me.
That does it for today's episode. A reminder, at Prestige Junkie After Party, you can get video versions of these podcasts and so much more. Last week, Chris Rosen and Chris Feil and I did a check-in on our fall festival drafts to see who is in the lead. And then later this week, Chris Rosen and I are going to record a watch-along of Quiz Show, Robert Redford's Quiz Show, in honor of his recent death, and then also just a great movie to rewatch. It's going to be really fun. Go to prestigejunkie.afterparty.substack.com to subscribe. Just $5 a month. We'll be so glad to have you there. This podcast is edited by Brett Fuchs, and it's produced by Brett Fuchs and me. Our theme music is by Dave Gonzalez. Thanks again to my co-host, Tyler Coates. You can subscribe to this podcast and this newsletter at theankler.com. You can also find this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. We will see you next week.